Welcome to the rebuild, ladies and gents. Episode 1, I suppose, but really this is going to realistically be more like episode 10 in the grand scheme of things in terms of where we've progressed since the last time I made a video update. And I've just been delaying this in particular video for a very long time, but I thought I'm out in Merthyr Mawr in the sand dunes on the coast near Bridgend, and I thought, well, now's a better time to make a video, if anything. You see, when I first thought about making this video, I've had my GoPro in my car for a very long time, and I thought I was going to do it. I was going to find a nice little spot, get a little tripod, get the lighting right, and explain the rationale and the reasoning as to why I moved back to Wales after living in the US for 6 years. And it's quite poignant that I'm making this video today because yesterday I made a TikTok basically saying that I had received the email notification that my green card had been accepted in terms of handing it back to the US CIS. Now, obviously, the last that you saw of me, unless you follow me on social media, was the video that I made in Thailand briefly explaining, well, I don't even remember what the video was, to be honest. I should have looked at it before I even started filming this. So basically, the first video that you would have seen of me is probably me basically explaining that the longest that I'd been outside of the US was that point in time when I made that video in Thailand. Now, I don't have my mic on me. It's all set up in the car. I probably should have used it, but it's all good. That way, there's less editing. Whilst the hair is going absolutely mental here. It's all good though. This is all part of the vlog and fun, isn't it? Anyway, realistically, I'm at, what step would I be at? Because obviously the last that you saw, I was in Thailand and I hadn't really set anything up. When I came back from Thailand, that is when I started to put things in motion. But before I could do any of that, step 1 was sending off my green card. Now, as I just previously said, I received that email yesterday at, I think it was at like 7:40 p.m. our time. Obviously, minus 5 hours, it's 2:40 in the afternoon in the US. So basically, they sent me an email saying that they had received my green card. They received the form, and they basically confirmed that they received it and that I was no longer a lawful permanent resident. And I've had a lot of people saying, well, why didn't you keep it? Why couldn't you keep it? And there's several reasons why I didn't keep it. And the reason being is that it would have taken them 6 months to rescind it naturally. If you're a green card holder, it's different obviously if you're a US citizen. I was not. If you leave it and let them do it for you, it can take upwards of 6 months. Well, it's a minimum of 6 months outside of the US for them to even acknowledge it. And let me just preface this by saying before I continue, I am not an immigration attorney, lawyer. I just know what I know from research and first-hand experience. But look at this bloody hill. So if I sound out of breath, now you know why, because I'm walking up a hill in sand. And surprisingly, it's very warm for Wales today, ladies and gents. So yes, if you are someone in my sort of position, don't just heed my advice. Do your own research. Find out for yourself. Basically, in order to move forward with life here in the UK, which is what I want, life here in Wales, which I know is kind of crazy because all over social media, all over YouTube, I'm seeing moving away from the UK was the best thing ever. The UK is too expensive, too many taxes, cost of living crisis, poor salaries, hard to get on the housing market. etc., etc., etc. And trust me, as someone who lived in the US, whose salary was probably far more than they ever thought it would be, and then to give all that up and come back, I understand. But moving back has given me a new perspective. I was fortunate enough to live somewhere else and experience that way of life. Now, don't get me wrong, I do believe that everybody at some stage in their life, whether that is permanently moving away from where they've come from, or just traveling a little bit, or just moving away from like where you're from, I think is crucial. Just to give you that sort of outsider perspective. Now, caveat, not everybody needs that, because a lot of people are in tuned and switched on. But also at the same time, on the flip side of that, a lot of people are content and happy where they're at. But this video, if you're watching this, is probably not for you, because if you're content and happy with where you're at, you do not need to watch this video. You also don't need to be watching those videos that explain the reasons why a lot of people are moving outside of the UK, because that's then going to put it in your mind, right? But if you're happy living here, don't fucking stress about it. Do not worry about it. It's okay. So in order to move on with life, I had to give up my green card, which is completely fine. I had zero reason to stay in the US. Now, if you're wondering why I left the US in the first place, this is the reason why. The only reason I moved to the US was so that I could live with my now ex-wife. We were married for 6 years, got divorced, didn't see a reason to stay. Obviously I could have, don't get me wrong, but for me, as part of the whole reasoning to come back to Wales, was to build the life that I had in the US, but here in Wales. And it's possible, and you can do it. Now, fortunately for me, the US treated me well, and it changed my perspective. It changed my outlook on life. And yeah, we're here now. And trust me, I know I should have made this particular video a long time ago, because I've pretty much jumped a few steps to where I am right now. So with that being said, where are we right now? Well, essentially, ladies and gents, by giving up the green card, now I could have waited. Let me explain. You can, as soon as you leave the US as a green card holder, you can technically wait for them to be like, okay, we no longer see you as a permanent resident. You've been outside the US for 6 months. But there's no guarantee that they will send you sort of like an email or a document. The only way to find out is by going back to the US. Now, granted, obviously, the only way to find that out would be to return to the US. And that would be an expensive trip if they said, no, you can't. You have to come in on an ESTA, which is obviously the US equivalent to the travel visa, the tourist visa, which you pay $14 for. It might have gone up now. I have no idea. I haven't had to get one of them for a very, very long time. But obviously, I will want to return to the US at some point. So I thought, well, by giving in my green card, I'm doing it the right way and I'm doing it legally. That way, I'm no longer considered a US person. And obviously, being a US person is pretty much just one string down from being a US citizen. You're not eligible to vote, and you're not allowed to work for the US government or government agencies like the police or whatever, right? So there is that. And the reason I'll obviously want to return to the US is I lived there for 6 years and I sort of built a life, which obviously I gave up. But parts of that life that I have still in the US are my dog, my friends, not only the friends that I made during my 6 years that I was there, but I have friends that I've known in the US from far longer, since 2012, 13. So I will definitely be wanting to return at some point. So by handing in your green card, doing it legally, you're basically just wiping the slate clean to an extent. Now, obviously, I was employed in the US for the first 2 weeks of January, so there will be some filing of taxes in 2026. But once that's all said and done, I no longer will have to pay taxes, right? In the US, I'm not a US citizen. I'm not perjury to that sort of that law. So in terms of the rebuild, then where we at, right? You probably got to this point and you're like, you haven't said anything about the rebuild yet. Well, first and foremost, the first port of call, handing in your green card, getting that all taken care of. For that, then I bought a car, which I'm sitting in right now. For those wondering, I'll do a car tour if you want me to. If not, it's all good. Just leave a comment below on that. And then in terms of where else are we at? Well, in order to sort of move forward with life, right? Giving up the green card was the first priority, because then you're basically then eligible to become to buy into first-time buyer schemes. You're eligible to set up your own sort of private pension in either like an ISA form, stocks and shares ISA, or like SIPs, for example. You're not then considered a US person, so you are eligible to work, right, in the UK, because that is something that you have to do in order to be able to work. Just because I lived in the US for so long, so I had to go through these steps and motions in order to be able to get to where I am right now. In terms of work, I'm not currently working right now. Like I said, the US treated me fairly well, and I was able to be like, okay, I don't need to jump into something just for the sake of jumping into something. I had a good chunk of savings, which has basically funded me up to this point. But I do have some good news in terms of work. I have been sort of shortlisted for several key roles, key positions that I'm excited for, in lines with the work that I was doing in the US. The only negative that I found is that the work experience in the US, even though it was good, 6 years working at the same company, it was very niche as an estimator. And in the UK, the equivalent to an estimator, don't get me wrong, there are estimator positions in the UK, but in order to sort of progress and take it to the next step, you need that construction related degree, notably a QS degree. So I have been shortlisted for several of those, so I'm excited for that, to see where sort of that takes me over the next sort of week or two, and see if we progress there. So that's the work front. The car front, where else are we at? Okay, so first time buyer scheme, put some money aside for that. So we're building towards a house deposit, which I think is key, because obviously coming back to the position I was in, I had a house in the US. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't my house. I wasn't on the mortgage or anything like that, but it was still part and parcel of it. So having your own space, having your own freedom, is pretty crucial, especially in a rebuild phase that I'm in. And I know it sounds like I'm rebuilding a car, but in essence, I'm sort of rebuilding the life that I had, right? Slowly but surely. Now, I will go into obviously more details about the sort of LISA, the lifetime ISA. Alongside the LISA, I set up a stocks and shares ISA, just to sort of get a sort of private pension sort of thing going on. And obviously there are financial benefits to having ISAs. So I'll make a separate video on that, just because I feel like there's a lot of people who I've spoken to since I've been back that aren't necessarily aware, or maybe in a position where they're able to, but you can pretty much start like today if you wanted to, and it's not hard to do, and I'll share all that. So then in terms of other avenues, just let me know what you want to see. I've obviously got a lot to talk about, but what I'll do is I'll leave this here, because this is quite a long-winded video. But if you want to follow the journey, obviously subscribe for more, because I feel like there's a lot of negativity surrounding life in Wales, life in the UK at the moment, and I kind of want to change the narrative ever so slightly. Don't get me wrong, I understand that my position is completely different to a lot of people's, but if I can in any way, shape or form sort of highlight little snippets and bits that people can sort of do to sort of progress a little bit, then I'm more than happy to do that, and share that with you, because yeah, I think it's key, isn't it? I think it's absolutely key. So anyway, with that being said, thank you very much for watching this episode 1 of the rebuild. Even though technically it's not, I've jumped a few steps and I've tried to fill in the gaps here, you know, in this video. But if you do have any comments, any questions, let me know below. I will certainly try and get back to you. And then the next video that you will probably see is actually the Thailand vlog, which should have been the video that happened several months ago, because I've been back a couple months now. But I've just been sort of trying to enjoy life a little bit and trying to sort of rebuild, get back into a routine, and all that good stuff. So yeah, if you like this video, make sure you give this video a thumbs up. I appreciate it. Diolch yn fawr. I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers.